This. Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today is August 27, 2025. Want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Please subscribe. Also want to thank KPFK Pacifica Radio for introducing me to today's guest, Greg Palast. Why don't you give us the introduction, Greg?
Okay, for those who don't know Greg Palast, I am, as you can see from my hat, I'm an investigative reporter. Some of you have read, I've had lucky enough to have some New York Times bestsellers, including The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, Armed Madhouse, Vulture's Picnic, Billionaires and Ballot Bandits. I was a BBC television reporter, Guardian investigative reporter, and for Democracy Now! And in my spare time, my dark secret, which I'll finally reveal to you, never told anyone else, I'm also a poet. And right now I'm making a film for Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, the sequel to Killers of the Flower Moon. But what I'd like people to, and many of you have seen my films, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, or Vigilantes Inc. But this week I've released a new film, and you can get it for free. It's called All Washed Away, The Secret Untold Story of the Drowning of New Orleans and Texas, because on Friday is the 20th anniversary of Katrina's drowning 1,800 people in New Orleans and Mississippi, not incidentally, most of them Black people. And I did that investigation originally for Democracy Now!, and I've just put it out again. So if you go to YouTube, to Greg Palast, that's, you see my name up there, Palast, YouTube Greg Palast, All Washed Away. You'll have an hour-long film that will blow your mind about what happened, the real story of New Orleans, and what's going to happen now as Trump decides to drown FEMA. Your town is next. So
thank you so much.
Please go grab that free film.
That was a great intro. Where are you calling from, Greg?
I'm here in deepest, darkest Hollywood.
First question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
The best thing for a human being is to have work that you, not that you like, but that doesn't disgust you, where you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm doing something good. And that you could be a ballet dancer. You could be a poet. You could be an investigative reporter. But you can't be an asshole. And if you are an asshole, then you go to sleep. You're sleeping with an asshole, and you don't want to do that. So if there's any secret to life, it's to do the work you love, and that other people will recognize as something valuable, that you didn't just fly through this earth in your few years here like a bad fart in the wind.
Really well put, Greg. I appreciate that. What's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Well, when my girlfriend tells me something in bed, it kind of sticks.
Oh my God! You know, the greatest experimental film critic, P. Adam Sidney, he just died. When I interviewed him in Santa Monica years ago, I says, "What's your favorite form of information?" He said, "Pillow talk."
Yes, exactly.
Pillow talk. So why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Because we're all kind of semi-blind. That is, we're all feeling about in the dark. We don't know what the hell we're feeling. It's just like blind men feeling an elephant is, they feel a trunk. They feel like they don't know what this whole thing is. We're on this tiny planet. We're on this tiny rock flying through space. And how we got here, why, what accident, all humans are basically accidentally conscious pieces of meat. This is an accident and probably not repeated anywhere in the universe. So here we are, this little thing that is aware of itself, is conscious. It's horrifying and thrilling and sad because it's just a flicker. It's no more than striking a match and it goes out.
Do you think,
So,
but that was
that's
good.
why we wanted, but that's why. So we want to know why and
Yeah.
what to do while the match is burning. And I'm not very good with advice to other people because I think my life is a screwed up mess. So, and I'm considered pretty successful.
Well, you're concise and articulate, Greg. I appreciate this. But do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
Oh, it's innate. Humans are curious creatures. We want to know. We're like monkeys and cats. We want to know what's going on around us. We have to know. We're just curious. Um, and we, of course, we have an internal desire to protect ourselves and protect our family and protect our clan, just like any other primates. And as we learn about the world, our clan becomes, our city, our baseball team, our nation, our race, our religion. And so we want to protect those things and know about the world and know about, what we mainly respond to is threats to our clan. And of
Well,
course,
you're
that's what keeps
leading
the war.
you're leading exactly to where we're going. I appreciate this, Greg. Do thoughts create emotions?
Well, according to a therapist I spoke to 2 years ago, he says, yeah, thoughts create emotions and behavior creates thoughts. Behavior creates emotions and thoughts.
Fill in
And
the yeah.
so there's a
Fill in.
triangle. There's a triangle
Oh,
of
triangle.
emotion leads to thought, leads to behavior, which leads to emotion. And
Yeah,
that's not my wisdom. That's imparted to me because I'm trying to learn it.
it's good. Fill in the blank, Greg. I don't know what I think until
Until I turn around and regret it later.
that is very unique, my friend. I've never had that.
It's true.
McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. Can humans think without language?
Well, it doesn't matter if we think without language.
Yeah.
Because the point of thinking is to evaluate the information coming in. And without language, we don't have much coming in. It really does separate us from the species, the planet, the galaxy, this weird consciousness, which we, through communication, I got to be a little careful. Otherwise, I sound like one of those guys talking about life is like a pizza. I'm not I don't have a lot of advice, but yeah, I don't think we have real consciousness without language. I know that's Freud, but I like Freud, so screw
No,
you.
this is good because again, you have ESP, you're anticipating exactly where we're going. Here's Chomsky. Language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Well, what do I do? That's interesting. Well, language never breaks down for me, so I don't know what that means. When
But
I'm
I mean,
silent, uh,
in regards to other people. You're at the store and you're trying to communicate, or you're with a family or a friend member. There's communication breakdown. What do you do?
I usually scream, holler, go into a hissy fit. I'm not a very nice person often in my private life. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. I don't know. I mean, I try. Yeah, it's very difficult. And sometimes when I feel silenced, I feel like I'm drowning or choking. When I
Well,
feel like I can't speak up, when I can't speak my mind, I feel like I'm drowning or choking and feel horrible. And it
Greg,
leads to bad
I appreciate you.
consequences.
You're laying your cards on the table. I appreciate this immensely. This is really good because I get various answers to that. But the next one is your observations of humans in general. Are we more feeling beings or more thinking beings?
We don't think at all.
Yeah.
It's not even proportional. Our thinking is about justifying our feelings.
Yeah.
trying to impose our feelings on others, trying to feel better, feeling angry, reactive. We use our thinking and our words to justify and act out on our feelings. And hopefully it doesn't hurt too many people.
Yeah, here's two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
There is no soul.
Second, Turing, can machines think?
Machines have no soul. So we don't think, they don't think. We have a bunch of neurons that are firing. Unfortunately, we have so many goddamn neurons, we don't know how to control them. So can machines think? I don't care. It's like asking if my cat thinks. Who gives a goddamn?
It's me and you versus the wording on the questions. I really appreciate how this is going. Thank you,
I can't
Greg.
always answer yes or no. You know, the
No,
problem multiple choice is that, and I appreciate the fact that I don't have to give a yes or no.
Yeah, no, the point is I'm not after anyone answering the questions. They're just prompts to get us to talk. I'm for anecdotes, stories, tangents. You're doing great. This is fun. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Oh, no question. I wish I could pursue happiness, but I pursue meaning, action. Everything for me is my writing, my filmmaking, my thinking, my advocating. So I'm, in that sense, I'm probably a very surface person. And I don't work very well with taking care of my feelings. Is this a therapy session? You're going to send me a goddamn bill after this?
No, this is not a therapy session. It's a fun discussion because I got the question from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says, happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning tends to last. What do you think of that?
Well, it's easy for him to say.
Okay, here's the one you really anticipated, Greg. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating?
Well, that's what consciousness is. It's detecting it's realizing that we are, that, you know, cogito ergo sum, as a wiser man than me said. We think, therefore we are. We wouldn't know we're conscious unless we are conscious. I mean, the whole point of consciousness is that we know we're here, which is also painful because we also know that we won't be here.
Yeah. Can you forget to die?
No.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe it's what motivates me to keep working.
Yeah. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Oh, the planets are always faster than us. Our thoughts are kind of slow and sluggish and stupid, self-centered, circular. They bounce around our brain, then they come out our mouth or our ass. And that's way slower than the speed of light, which is why enlightenment is so far away.
Yeah. Very good. Audre Lorde, the poet, said, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague, Yvonne Rainer, said, oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest? It doesn't have to be tangible.
Okay, explain that one. Now I'm lost.
Yeah. Okay. So
give me an example.
Basically, I'm asking, what tool do you most gravitate towards? But I open some of these questions with cue quotes. Audre Lorde is saying you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. She's probably talking about white supremacy. Yvonne Rainer is saying, oh no, the point is to expose the tools. So it's basically, what tool do you most gravitate towards?
Well, I mean, look, power, violence, money, these are the tools of our rulers, of our landlords. My whole life is dedicated as an investigative reporter to exposure. Yeah. So if it exposes their tools, if I pull down their pants and show you their tools, then I have accomplished what I'm here to do in this life. I never realized that's what it would be in my life. I didn't, but that's what it is. That's my life.
Really good. I love exposure. I've never had that tool suggested to me, and I love it because you evoked what a McLuhan-esque take on the Wizard of Oz is. It's the Wizard of Us. In Toto are the artists and the filmmakers like you and me pulling back the curtain and revealing what's behind. So they're the atomic dogs. The follow-up question, Greg, is what toy do you gravitate towards? I've asked this tool question for 40 years, and one person said, well, what about a toy? So then I added it. You told me the tool to exposure. What's a toy you gravitate towards?
A toy I gravitate towards. Well, I actually think of a toy. I used to love playing. My kids and I used to love to like play with um, water guns and those Nerf guns, where you shoot each other. And we'd have great times in non-violent gunnery.
Yeah, beautiful. That reminds me of, Matt Groening did Life in Hell cartoons before The
Yes.
Simpsons. And there's one where the kid's playing with the plastic toy and the mother goes, I don't want you playing with war toys. So she takes the plastic gun away from him and he runs outside and picks up a stick and starts going. Pew, pew, pew. So what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
I don't worry when I go to bed at night. I worry when I wake up in the morning.
Oh, way to go. No one says that.
And I always, and I don't, night is good for me. I get in bed hopefully with my girlfriend, unless she's somewhere else. And I enjoy the night, listening to things, watching, it's reading. But it's in the morning when I wake up and say, oh, shit, I'm behind. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. I got to do that. Oh my God, this is a terrible thing is going to happen. So I wake up in the morning with a darkness that maybe it's not good, but it maybe impels me to get to work.
There you go. Like Leonard Cohen says, well, you can't have a light without a crack. So this is McLuhan learning from Ezra Pound, the poet, that artists are the antenna of the race, filmmakers, journalists. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so we might learn to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Greg, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Well, I mean, we artists, so to speak, because I make films and write books and stuff, so I'll throw myself in with that vaunted crowd. But we are very egotistical, and we think we're the most important goddamn things around. It reminds you of that joke that was told to me by a proctologist, in which the heart, the lung, and the anus have a fight about who's important. And the heart and lungs say, without us, you're not alive. And they said, okay, let's see what happens. Don't eat for a while, whatever, you're still there. He said, but if you don't have a bowel movement, finally they gave up and they put the asshole in charge.
Yeah.
And
that's good. The asshole in charge.
And that's why the asshole is always in charge.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we artists think way too much of ourselves.
Yeah.
And yes, my job is to show the dark side of our conscience to ourselves, dark side of our psyche, our nation, our actions. And that's what I took on as a investigative journalist. And before that, by the way, as an investigator for the Justice Department and others before that. So I was a detective.
Yeah.
And the idea is to uncover these truths.
Yeah. But I'm saying, I'm not trying to be elitist, but why does the general public kind of ignore what the artists are really saying. You made these films. How many people get exactly what you're saying? Or they like the I had a lecture called PBS and Sheila Nevins hijacked the revolution. So every yuppie who listens to KPFK go, I love that film, The Weather Underground, but they don't go out and do anything. So I'm just asking you, why do you think in general humans sort of ignore the hidden messages of art and journalism?
Because most people are fucking stupid. They go through life blind. They're told you've got 6 months to live and they don't know what to do with themselves, so they go to Disney World.
Yeah.
They don't, they put on a MAGA cap. They go to an AOC rally and they think that they've done, they go, oh, we're the resistance. You know what the resistance is? Jean-Paul Sartre was in the resistance in World War II, killing Germans and hiding from the Gestapo. That's called resistance. Going to a rally or signing up for Move On ain't the damn resistance, my friends. You're just kissing your own ass, and you're not that flexible.
Greg, you're articulate and concise. I'm really appreciating this. Do artists have moral obligation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abso-fucking-lutely. Are you kidding me? That's really important.
All right.
I was working yesterday on this film. This one, I was showing off. Oh, I'm doing this film with DiCaprio and De Niro, whatever.
Yeah.
But the point is, I'm making this film for the Osage Nation.
Yeah.
Which was ripped off by the Koch brothers. That's a source of the Koch brothers' original billions, is stealing oil from the Osage natives. Those are the ones if you saw the film Killers of the Flower Moon, those are those hundreds of natives that were murdered for their oil. Well, when the oil started running out, the Bureau of Indian Affairs gave the oil rights, basically the right to gather oil from these properties to this little company out of Wichita called Koch Oil. And they basically stole $2 billion worth of oil, about $6 billion in today's money. Billions. This is the source of the Koch's wealth. Now, I felt I didn't do this film because I wanted to work with DiCaprio, De Niro. That's all BS.
Yeah.
I did this film because I wanted to tell the story of the Osage. I was on that investigation 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just told DiCaprio, look, you can't make a film that ends in 1924. It's 2024. These natives didn't disappear over the past 100 years. You got to tell their story. I felt that was a moral obligation. I'm not making a dime off this film. In fact, I might lose a bunch of money. I feel morally obligated to tell this story. I'm not trying to see if I can be a great filmmaker. I'm not trying to do this to get an Oscar. The members of the Academy, please take note.
Okay, Greg, we're going to get into filmmaking. Let's carry on. This is really good because you laid that out beautifully. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
There are no new ideas. There's nothing new under the sun. There's fascism. There's murder.
Yeah.
There's terror. As we speak, kids are getting killed in Palestine, and there are kids who are being held hostage by Hamas, tortured, and they'll probably be murdered.
Yeah.
This is what's happening while we are talking. Okay.
No.
So what is our moral obligation here? I don't know. And
the words coming out of our
mouth, I don't know.
Yeah, the words coming out of our mouths and our presence. This is beautiful. This is television, telephone, and you're laying it out beautifully. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Yes.
What is
it? It's weird that I didn't think about that till you asked me. What is my earliest memory? And I have to say, my family once lived in Hollywood. They didn't have, they got a $1 down house after the World War II. And I remember I was about 3, I would say, sticking a key into an electric socket. So my first memory is of getting shocked.
Oh my God, that is a heavy memory. So is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
The dark memories are, for the most part, a serious curse, a weight. I remember from 100 Years of Solitude by Garcia Marquez. when he talked about this young girl. He always had these metaphors. This young girl who carries around her parents' bones on her back. And it's a metaphor for carrying around those heavy memories.
Yeah.
And by the way, I should say I had a wonderful childhood and wonderful parents, and that was lucky. But I've had, moments of darkness, as everyone does in their
Yeah.
life. And if I could do like, the what was that film by Charlie Kaufman, the beautiful memory, the
Sunshine.
beautiful, yeah, the sunshine
Sunshine.
of an
Yeah.
empty mind or whatever.
Yeah.
If I had a choice, I'd have an empty mind. I would
Yeah.
not want any memories. But of
Yeah.
course, memory is how I write my books and make my films.
Yeah.
I mean, when I saw that Killers of the Flower Moon was about the Osage tribe, my memories were of working with the tribe
Yeah.
to uncover what the Kochs did to them. So memory, when you read my books, is everything.
Yeah.
Calling up these things. And if you read my book, my favorite book of mine, the only one that didn't hit the New York Times bestseller list, there's a bitter goddamn memory. I thought quality would work. All my other books hit the Times bestseller list. But it's a lot about, it's not just investigative reporting, but it's about my life. So I had to remember things. And some memories can be mostly, my memories are mostly delightful, but I have a lot of heavy stuff like anyone else. I'm not exempt.
Yeah, about Jungian shadow, integrate your shadow. So tell me someone, Greg, within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
Wow. Everyone in my family. I mean,
Well,
like I
just
said, I
quick,
had great parents, but I would say no question, if you read Vulture's Picnic, you'll see the massive influence of my father.
what'd you mainly
And
get from your dad?
well, he was a furniture salesman in the Valley, and he hated furniture. So the first thing I got from his, don't ever take a goddamn job. Do nothing for money. Now, we had no money. I grew up in if you know Sun Valley, Pacoima, which is the anus of Los Angeles, still is. It's where the sewage plant is and the
Yeah.
garbage dump. It's a dump. It's a horrible barrio. It's
Yeah.
worse than East LA. It's the worst place out. But he said, just don't do anything for money, and don't go take a job just to make money. Eat out of
Beautiful.
garbage cans. Do what you want. And so in a way, I ended up kind of living the life he wanted.
Beautiful.
That he felt but it was sad because he felt constrained, to
Yeah.
raise a family. He had to go to work every day in a job he hated pretty much. And he just said, go do what you want. Don't worry about money ever.
Well, that's amazing, because I won't ask you this, but one question I sometimes ask is where you get your work ethic. And everybody says their parents. And I'm like, have you ever looked in Wikipedia about the third paragraph down for work ethic? It says, this could be a scam from consumer capitalism. But you have a more to what you're communicated to me, what you got from your dad is more a true blue kind of work ethic, which is do what you want to do because you believe in it.
Yes, but of course he told me what I wanted to do because it's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Which I ended up kind of following. But the work ethic, that is working to get done to reach your goals. That's from my mother. She was this crazy can-do person. I mean, she was just ridiculous. There's nothing you can put your mind to that you can't do.
Yeah.
And which is in some ways that's a lie, by the way, because if you fail at things, it's so I was thinking, well, if I failed at something, and I failed at things, not often, I'm pretty successful. So so what I got from my mother was, you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. But then, of course, if you fail, I must not have worked hard enough or put my mind to it.
No,
so,
that's
that hangs over you.
Yeah.
It's like, so this is the psychology of motivation. But no. So I had really it's interesting. I'm just looking over and I just saw a picture of my parents. So I had a great, I had these great people showing me a moral path. I hope a moral path. I mean, from their view, from my view. And my mother's like can-do spirit. She was a Girl Scout leader, and she worked in the school cafeteria, and then in her 40s got a teaching degree and went to work as a teacher. So, it's like, that's, I have to
Go
look
get
at
'em.
that and admire that. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's you evoked the Frank Zappa quote. I'm a failure, but I'm not a miserable failure. So the next question is exactly the follow-up, Greg. Someone outside your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what was that impact?
Oh, oh yeah, actually, I would say Frank and Lois Rosen.
And what'd you get from them?
And okay, Frank Rosen, they both passed away, al shalom, and they Frank was the president of the United Electrical Workers Union for the Midwest, and he took me in as his protege.
Yeah.
Interesting story. I'm not over congratulating myself, but I think given my father's direction, I did my graduate work at the University of Chicago under Milton Friedman, of all people. And I could have gone to work for Goldman Sachs and started out in what would be today's money as a kind of trainee. I'd be making about $400,000 a year. And instead, I went to work for Frank and working with the labor unions and activist groups. And I went on food stamps. And and he helped me survive. And his wife, Lois Rosen, we set up organizations on national health care, on fighting utilities, overcharges on gas and electric, the issue of heating gas costs in Chicago. So these are the things I worked on. And if it weren't for Frank and Lois, I don't know what I would have done. I don't think I would have ended up going to Goldman Sachs, but because to me, and I didn't want to, everyone said, oh, go take a job at Goldman and earn, a couple $1 million, like in 5 years, like earn 10, $20 million and then pay off all your debts. And then you're set for life. And I said, you know what? I can't do that because I don't know anyone who's ever escaped from a prison made of gold.
Yes. Okay. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Yes. They were the typical secular left Jews.
Do you pray?
Lately, yes. Only lately. It's brand new to me.
If God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
You did okay.
Yeah.
And it's going to be okay.
Beautiful. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
No. That's one of the things we have to recognize. There is deep goddamn evil, and it is promoted and beloved by too many people. And this is a very deep, deep danger in our planet. Our planet, in fact, most people are not evil, but most people participate and go along with evil.
Yeah.
And, it's always hooray for our side, remember For What It's Worth with Stephen Still's song, For What It's Worth, which is, people singing songs and they're carrying signs, mostly saying hooray for our side.
Yeah.
And we pick sides and we will allow any evil to occur as long as it's one of ours.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like the left. I don't like the right. And I'm considered on the left, but I despise the left as much as the right.
Yeah, listen, you evoked another Frank Zappa line. Watch the Nazis run your town. Now go home and check yourself. You think we're singing about somebody else. That is powerful, embracing contradiction. But Greg, really what the follow-up question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'm going to set it up with 4 modern thinkers. Alan Watts, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic thing is I'm trying to get you to tell me, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy, But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Well, Alan Watts often talked in these complex koans, and I don't know what the hell he's talking about. That's
Yeah.
number one. Number two, it sounds like bullshit to me.
Yeah.
But I think of Martin Luther King's statement to a few friends of mine who knew him. Yeah, I know the family. I'm close to his son, which is love your enemy, but you don't have to like them.
Right. So how do you advise someone? They come to you, say, Greg, I'm being bullied. How do you advise them to deal with an enemy?
There's only one way to deal with an enemy, and that's to punch them in the face till they're no longer your enemy. Bullies always back down. That's why Trump always chickens out. So he's beating up, as we speak today, he's beating up India with 50% tariffs because they're taking oil from China, oil from Russia.
Yeah.
But China's taking 4 times as much oil from Russia. India is our democratic nation and our ally, but they're getting hit with double the tariffs that we are charging to China, which is a brutal dictatorship taking oil from Russia and keeping the Ukraine war going. So what the Chinese understood with Trump, you punch him in the face a few fucking times and the guy backs down. Trump always chickens out because he's a bully, and bullies always chicken out.
Yeah. Beautiful. So you laid that out so concise and articulate. This is Nassim Taleb. Games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. My friend said villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. And lastly, Gregory Bateson said, when the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, oh, I did something morally and socially wrong? So again, it's a lot of prompts. You can go wherever you want, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
That's a good question. A containment may work. That's why we have prisons. We try to contain evil, but it's pretty hard to do. It drips out. That's why we have wars. Yes, I have never met an evil. Well, no, I take it back. There's only one person I've ever met who is a participant in deep evil and flipped around and said, but it took a lot of ayahuasca. And that's, John Perkins, who wrote Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Yeah.
And he and I I was investigating companies he was hired to rip me apart.
Wow.
But then, he worked for these really evil, fraudulent nuclear corporations. But later he told me, we were doing a lecture together in Czechoslovakia and Czech Republic. And he said, when I heard what you had to say in a courtroom, he said he resigned. I didn't realize that it was a motive. He said, I realized you were right. And then he went off to South America and just back to South America, where he come from, did a lot of spiritual work on himself and came back as a true advocate and a guy who's warning. So Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I knew him when he was the economic hitman.
Yeah.
And then I've become really close friends with the guy who came out the other side and said, we really need another way to live. And he tries to communicate this to people.
Yeah.
That's
so you were
literally, but how many thousands, hundreds of really evil people I expose, whether it's on Democracy Now! Or on, BBC, whatever, my films. Like I is doing this investigation again of the Koch brothers. I was the first person to actually do a film about them 30 years ago. And what I find is that evil people really think that they are right.
Yeah.
That everyone else is a weakling and wrong, and they don't understand the world. So like Paul the Vulture Singer, a guy I've written about in Vulture's Picnic and in my films I've investigated for Democracy Now! Started out with BBC. just a deeply disturbed. I mean, he makes Lex Luthor look like a Boy Scout,
Yeah.
and it's and you have to ask yourself, Charles Koch used to use a phrase which I got off of a FBI tape recording, which was I just want my fair share, and that's all of it. Now, here's a
Yeah.
guy with billions who's stealing money from poor Indians, and he was asked, "Why would you steal money from a few poor Indians? You're a billionaire." He says, "I
Yeah.
want my fair share, and that's all of it."
Yeah.
I mean, no kidding. People like Steve Cohn, who is a hedge fund operative worth about $15 billion, and I started doing a story out of it with his ex-wife, and he made his money by insider trading. He's a complete
Yeah.
corrupt animal who should be behind bars. In fact, he should be in a zoo cage because he's just an animal.
Yeah.
Horrible human being. He owns the He owns the Yankees. So sorry. And the good thing is he spent more money than anyone else building a team, and they keep losing. So hooray!
Yeah.
But and that I don't think God had anything to do with it. So there is no such thing as a higher justice.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's
Well,
justice at
Greg,
all, but yeah. So there you go.
but
Anyway, I don't
Greg,
know. I'm
this
off
is
on
you.
a tangent.
No, I welcome tangents. This is what we're here for, to cover it. But two things you evoked or that I left out is in regards to enemies is Native American Indians, indigenous say your enemy is your best teacher. And Walt Whitman into poetry will go into says, I no doubt deserve my enemy. But I'm just curious your thoughts on forgiveness, because Mark Twain says forgiveness is the smell the flower gives off when the foot steps on it. I mean, did you forgive John after you learned of his change? The confessions of
Oh,
the.
well, it's not a matter of forgiveness. It was admiration. How many
Okay, there you
people
go.
make changes like that? How many
Yeah,
people make that type of self change? I mean, I wish I could do that type of thing. I mean, I don't know what would happen. Let's say that my mother did want me to always, she agreed, do what you want, but make some money.
yeah,
And my father said, don't, the minute you start thinking money, you're going to go off on the wrong track. But
it's well,
so
that's
what if I went for the money? What if I went?
yeah,
It'd be an interesting thing. See, you notice that I didn't tempt myself. I could have gone to work for Goldman Sachs for a couple of years, stuffed a bunch of money in my pocket, and
yeah,
walked away. But could I have? And I actually feared that I didn't have the fortitude once I started making big money. And I said, oh, I got a Porsche. Now I got to pay for 2 ex-wives. Now I got to do this. I got to do that. I still need the money. Okay, I'll quit next year. I had a friend who went through that, and I felt terrible for him. He said, I'll just I'll become an investment banker for a couple of years, make some money, and then do these like progressive things he
yeah,
wanted to do. And it took him 20 years to get
yeah,
where he wanted to do. So he lost 20 years of his life. I don't
yeah.
think I don't know if I'd have the courage to make that kind of change. So with the case of John, I'm just like, John Perkins is like, man, I just bow down to this man. How many people can do that?
And do that. See that I think it's the word acknowledgement. I think humans are walking around looking to be acknowledged. You're another human. And two things again you evoked. Al Flipside, the great punk magazine that spawned everybody from Matt Groening onward. His line is don't sell out, sneak in. And I think that's in a way you've snuck in and become big time and
Well, yeah.
important. And then Paul Schrader says one that's a little debatable. He says, the role of the artist is to attempt to sell out but fail. Now that sounds good, but it's like, yeah, my art is so pure. I tried to sell out, but I failed. So here's the next one. James Joyce is the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checks out. He says, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner says, your profession, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Well, if to go to journalism, and you mentioned a few people, I'm a super fan. Actually, I was just, believe it or not, I was just reading James Joyce yesterday, Ulysses, and which I encourage everyone to do. Is, as Ezra Pound would say, who was sometimes an asshole himself, but as Ezra Pound would say, a poetry is the news that men die for each day.
Yeah.
And so, or something like that. I probably
Yeah.
got it wrong, but so I love, yeah, I would agree. I mean, James Joyce is telling you something, but then you could say, well, why read a book when you can just look up and see for yourself? The answer is, and this is
Yeah.
why I write books, and Joyce wrote books, and Faulkner wrote books, is to show you something that you can't just walk outside and see. You
Yeah.
can walk outside and see a tree, but you can't
Yeah.
walk outside and see corruption. All you see is the tree over the burial site.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful, because let's go into poetry a little. And a screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. When you're writing a Greg poem, what role does intention play in your creative process?
I'm always there in your goddamn face. It's just like as I am now. Uh,
Beautiful.
I don't. I'm not a. I'm very different than a lot of poets. If you call me a poet, I never stop being a journalist. I never stop being an observer. I don't say, oh, this is my, like I'm writing about, the Koch brothers stealing money from Indians. I don't then go off and write a poem about the wonderful flowers of summer.
Yeah.
I don't go into Hallmark card. I don't change who I am. In
Yeah.
fact, I like to call myself an investigative poet.
Beautiful. That is great. So that's the perfect next question is, Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your reader in two senses, when you're writing a poem and when you're writing a fiction, a nonfiction book? How much are you thinking of your reader?
100%.
Yeah.
I never think of anything else. To me, poetry is not confessional. It's just like my journalism.
Yeah.
It's just like my films. I'm there to tell you something, and I want as many people to hear it or see it as possible. When I wrote my first um, popular book, I did an academic book, some academic stuff as an economist. But when I did my first popular book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, I told my publisher, listen, we're going to sell this damn book, because I didn't write it for my mommy so she can put it on her shelf. I didn't write it for my ego. I write these things because it's really important for people to know
Yeah.
these things. And so I went out and on a crusade to sell that book, and it became a big international bestseller. It wasn't by accident. It's because I thought, I'm writing this because I want you to know this.
Yeah. Beautiful. Greg, McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness or human sensorium. Knife and fork extends our teeth. Shutter in a camera extends, our eyelids, or a projector shutter. Even non-tangible, say religion or philosophy, extends consciousness, maybe. I'm asking you, the two tools you use a lot, the writing utensil, whether it's a pen or a keyboard, what does the writing utensil extend? What humanness? And then what does the film camera extend for you?
It extends. I have this stuff stuffed in my brain, and I have to get it out, whether it's through film or writing or speaking to you now or whatever. I'm going to be teaching a seminar at some point when I get around to it on how to write a bestseller, because I've written many. And it's not easy to do. There are 200,000 books printed in English a year. So to get a bestseller requires some work. But the lie about it is that you don't write a bestseller. You write what you want and then you sell it. One thing, when people come to me and say, I want a writer, I dismiss them.
Yeah.
When people say, I have something I want to write about, I had this experience and I want to write about it.
Yeah.
Now that's it. In other words, you got something in you that if you don't get it out, you will burst.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. It's not like, oh, I want to be a writer, so here I'll.
Yeah.
No. I have something in me that will burst. If I didn't tell the story of the Osage natives,
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, it's great that I'm getting backed up by DiCaprio, but if I didn't get backed up by anyone except my cat, I would still make this film, even if it drains my entire bank account. I don't give a damn. If I don't make this film, I
Yeah.
will die.
Greg, it's perfect what you said, because Milan Kundera says in the Unbearable Likeness of Being,
Yeah,
he
great
talked
book.
about it. This is why I love writing, because the character that I'm writing about can go further than I can. That sounds romantic. If I write a character on this piece of paper, how can that character go further than the word on the paper?
Well, of course, he's a writer of fiction, and Kurt Vonnegut talked about this, that you have, when you have the weapon of fiction,
Yeah.
you can make anything happen. You can give yourself a Nobel Prize, as he does in one book, uh, oh God, I can't remember which one,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Breakfast of Champions.
Yeah.
And he could travel through outer space. He can do all these things. So he's no longer earthbound. He's
Yeah.
no longer bound down by the facts. Now, in my case,
Yeah.
the work I do is very fact bound. So I'm held down to the earth. So I can only go so far. But what
Yeah.
I'm hoping to do is that I can only go so far, but that doesn't mean that your brain can't go farther by applying it to the rest of the world. I
Yeah.
mean, I hope that I take you further. I don't like a lot of punditry and commentary. Like, for example, that's why I better be careful because I'm often on MSNBC, but I'm not crazy about MSNBC. Fox used to be on Fox. They don't let me on anymore. CNN. And it's just people mouthing off and telling you what you already believe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Trump's a fascist.
Yeah.
Bernie is who's a friend of mine, but he's a freaking angel. I don't know. It's like I'm not into punditry. I'm into telling you things that you didn't know before. So that's my thing. I try to extend what make you look at things in a very different way than you looked at them before. I'm not there to make
Yeah.
you feel happy about your viewpoint.
Yeah. Gary Snyder, the Beat nature poet, said, poetry, the job of the poet is to see the world without language, then put that seeing into language. And I'm curious your thoughts on Mike Kelly. Making art is making your problems other people's problems.
Well, Mike Kelly's the first name that you've mentioned today that I'm unfamiliar with, but certainly Gary Snyder.
He's Robert Hughes, Shock of the New, called most influential artist of the 20th century. Anyways, he's an artist. You might check him out. Anyways, but your thoughts. Art is making your problems other people's problems.
Well, you don't make other people's problems. When I write about things, if I write about uncovering things that you didn't know about, like the Koch brothers stealing oil from the natives or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm giving you information you didn't have. But when I get to problems, well, I want to make the Osage's problems your problems. I want you to understand what's going on in this world. Now, when I have personal, so once in a while, I'll write personal stuff. I wrote about problems I was having with my daughter.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm thinking? And people are saying, well, why are you doing that? It's personal. I say, no. You know how many people, if I have 1 million people read my stuff, 800,000 have problems with their daughters.
Yeah.
At some point, and I was flooded with letters. So I'm not giving my problems to someone else. I'm talking about a problem, whatever problem I have in my life. Yeah. There's no one who doesn't have that problem as well. I'm not unique. Yeah. I'm not something special. There is nothing new under the sun, and no one's special. No one has, or as Elvis Costello, the great philosopher, said, there's no such thing as an original sin.
Wow, I like that. I didn't know that one. And so this is perfect because Breck asked Charles Lawton, "Why do you act?" Charles said, "Because people don't know what they are like, and I think I can show them." So it's sort of like I can raise your awareness if you take a look at this. So I'm really curious. This question is, a couple of my film heroes have this mantra: ignore yourself. Jonas Mika says there's no self-expression. In fact, the great jazz pianist Cecil Taylor says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making, writing, everything you do more self-expression, or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, environments, and cultures are dominant?
Well, that's a pretty difficult distinction to make. I mean, I would say um, when I'm really working, I mean, I have to say that my book Vulture's Picnic, I always say which is my favorite of all my books. Um, I didn't write it. I just wrote it down.
Yeah.
It
So
was
you
it
were
was there. I literally just wrote it down.
you mean you were more a vehicle? Is that what?
I was just,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just the path
Yeah.
to, I'm just the colon for the ideas.
The colon. We don't need the word muse. Like Dante says, I pray to the muses, to so I can get their I pray to the colon, in
Well,
the
I did write a poem once about Beethoven. It's called Beethoven's 10th, and Beethoven comes back and he's jiving with me, and and he's giving me advice.
yeah,
And in the end, I said, he's saying you don't, he says, I keep saying I need to communicate with the muse. And he says,
yeah.
you don't need a muse, you need a masseuse. And I said, you
You
came
are
back from the
brilliant.
afterlife just to tell me that bad pun?
You
And
need a
he's,
masseuse. You don't need no muse.
yeah,
That
that's
is
what you need.
beautiful.
It's like, yeah. So that's the other thing is, while I said on one hand, this book Vulture's Picnic, I wrote it down. I literally,
Yeah,
I would see the page in front of me and I just transcribe out of my brain.
yeah,
Others, I have worked at very hard to
yeah,
develop a skill.
yeah,
But that's important because I am a conduit for other people's issues. In other words, I speak, the most moving thing that ever happened to me, and I've never mentioned this publicly, but I was at a doctor's office and there was this guy and his dad. They were clearly straight off the docks at Canarsi's, with the workman's caps and the
yeah.
wife beaters on and the workman's pants, and we're at the doctor. And the young guy comes up behind me, and I kind of feel him. I thought he was reaching into my pocket, and I think, is this guy picking my pocket? And so I go out I didn't want to like embarrass, I didn't know. So I go out in the hallway and I reach to my pocket, and there's a little piece of paper. And the paper said, thank you for speaking for those of us who can't.
Oh my God.
That was pretty heavy duty.
That is heavy
And
duty.
and and to me, that's why I'm here.
Yes. That is so good. So let's go into the mechanics of filmmaking because your films are so well edited as well. Michael Apted made a doc on a Russian rock star 40 years ago. I said, why do why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? Most people don't know. Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922, but it flourished in the 80s to the point where Marty Scorsese said, I cut my films faster because of MTV. So Michael Apted said, because we've learned to take in information faster. I asked this question with a bias. Can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
Yeah, we've lost our ability to, like there's, it's funny. I had a professor, Wayne Booth, who used to when the speed reading was all the rage. He said, "I'm going to
Yes.
teach you slow reading."
Oh,
And
that's
and
good.
it is difficult. I mean, because people, one thing, you want to give people enough time to learn something, but we have to accept contemporary impatience. So like
Yes.
yesterday, I was spending all day editing film, and there's no question that I have to be very cautious that if the pace doesn't stay up, the images don't stay bright, the music doesn't stay engaging, that people no longer have the patience. They
Yeah.
just cut you off. You're not. I mean, Scorsese's one of the last guys who has the luxury of having people put their asses in a seat in a theater, so you don't necessarily walk out if it starts slowing down for a few minutes.
And Thelma's such a great editor because she comes from old school.
Yeah, and so
She's
what?
not.
Yeah, so what's happened is that now you're watching, like, I recognize that, like I just put, like I said, I want people, if you're watching now, go to YouTube, Greg Palast, All Washed Away, the film we just did on New Orleans, which is, I was actually, I really like, it's an hour. And, but I'm aware that that people are going to watch it on YouTube, which is new for me to release something to
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah.
And if it drops, if the motion drops for a minute, people just,
Yeah.
go on to cat videos. So
That's
you got
it.
to keep people, so this panic to keep people engaged at every second. So it's very difficult to develop things. So I've developed a style in both my writing, columns, books, films. I'm a big, big believer in taking heavy duty information and making it entertaining.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's not a question of fast or slow cuts. It's a question of keeping your eyeballs down. I want people, I was famous at The Guardian for having people read through to the bottom of my columns. Um, just keep you going.
Yeah.
In my films, I want to keep, you want to know what's going to happen next. You don't walk out of the theater.
Yeah.
People don't walk out of, when I go to theaters, I notice you just don't have people leaving because they want to know what's next. And like
Yeah.
Vulture's Picnic, it's like, it's endless cliffhangers. It's endlessly entertaining. I got
Yeah.
actually slammed by a critic for my film, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. Well, it's pretty heavy duty stuff. It's about cholera epidemics in the Congo where I go. It's about stealing votes from black people. It has a lot of grim content, but I do it very funny. I actually have cartoons in the middle. If you
Yeah.
read my book, Billionaires and Ballot Bandits, there's a 48-page comic book in the middle of it by Ted Rall. I want
Yeah.
to keep you watching. And
Yeah.
when I was at BBC, I did a story on it was about monopoly antitrust law in the European Union. Now, they expected me to do this very academic thing. I turned it into a goddamn circus. I had ladies in bikinis. I can't do that now. And I'm talking about antitrust law. I got women in bikinis juggling. I've got jousting, medieval jousters. I've got guys throwing pies in faces. I'm doing all this crazy stuff, but in the middle of it, you're getting a full story about the need to strengthen antitrust law. So I'm a big believer in entertainment,
Yes.
but entertainment that will grab you and shake your soul and shake your heart. I also like to get emotional. I want people to cry. I was just telling my director who's flying in from Portugal, working on the end of our new film for DiCaprio. I said, people aren't crying. I need people to
Yeah.
cry at the end of the film.
Yeah, that's the money shot. But you taught me a great term, contemporary impatience. It reminds me of my mom said, "God, give me patience and give it to me now." But this question about rapid montage, and the follow up is, can humans literally multitask?
No.
Yeah. Wow.
And that means if you're multitasking, you're not concentrating on anything. I mean, I find if I'm writing, I'm writing. If I'm filming, I'm filming. The it's very, maybe it's because I'm a guy. The myth is that women can multitask and men can't, and I tend to find that there's a lot of truth in that. But
Yeah.
no, we if we don't focus, we're nowhere. In fact, I really, when I write, when I do my books, I often go off into the woods and get a little place or something, or get a little place on a beach or something, a shack, and I'm
Yeah.
gone for 2 months.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
because I can't be distracted, and then I get nothing done.
What do you think the motive of the cave artist was?
Oh, you know what? That's fascinating. I literally just had that discussion this week, and I can't remember why. I was probably trying to get my girlfriend to whatever. But I was thinking about the cave art at Lascaux. Like, what were they trying to do? And there's the practical idea. I'm drawing buffalo, so or there's bison to out there herd, go kill them.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it was an artistic impulse. I
Yeah.
saw, because as you would say, the people in the cave know that there's buffalo out there.
Yeah.
Okay. He had to express something that in his soul that he wants others to see and others to feel with him.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a celebration of a hunt. Maybe it was a disappointment that these were the bison that got away. I don't know, but I think it was an emotional expression, not some type of practical, oh, here's 4 bison out there, let's go get them tomorrow. It doesn't make any sense. That would not happen.
I
It's
like that.
about someone who said, oh, look, I took a piece of ochre or a piece of charcoal and started scraping the cave wall, and then saw, wait, that looks like a bison. And those thoughts developed, and people said, that's satisfying to do.
Beautiful.
That has a special satisfaction. And when I think of the cave art at Lascaux, and I was specifically thinking about this week, that was an artistic impulse completely.
Really good words there. You're a wordsmith, because McLuhan loved the line, the Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can. And so what's more important, Greg, conviction or compromise?
I fucking hate compromise.
Yeah.
Compromise is for weaklings and fools and the abused, because I'm going to tell you, there's 2 parties never compromise. One wins, one bends the other to the will, and they say, okay, you compromise. They don't mean compromise. They mean, I'm bending you to my will, and when you give in, we'll call it a compromise.
Yeah.
No,
How do
I don't compromise on my views, values, nothing.
How do you rate these 3 elements in all your accomplishments? Basically, luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
Oh, that's easy. Luck. Absolutely. Luck is everything. And people say, oh, you're talented. You did this, you did, it's like you deserve it. Yeah. There's lots of talent out there. I'm in Hollywood. You shoot a gun, you kill 4 people with talent. So
What's second after luck, skill or ambition?
Skill.
Yes, because the question I used to ask was, you'll love this one, was, is ambition based more on fear or joy? Everybody would say fear. So I said, that's too simple. Then I read Friedkin, Exorcist director, and he says, in Hollywood, skill and luck have nothing to do with it. It's all ambition.
Well, yeah, it's well, look, I'm in Hollywood, and one thing I have learned, it's who you know and who you blow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. And so that's part of my luck. I mean,
Yeah.
I have connections in Hollywood and in publishing and other things like that. And the skill is kind of a necessary, like if you're a runner, you need 2 feet.
Yeah.
And so skill is, just so you know, skill is assumed. You're not getting anywhere. Even if, I don't care how powerful your daddy is.
Yeah.
Liza Minnelli, yeah, she had these superpower Hollywood parents, but if she couldn't dance, she would not have been Liza Minnelli.
Yeah.
You can't daddy your way into getting some people, yeah, use every connection you get. And I see people with connections a lot, but the skill is assumed. If you don't have the skill, well,
Yeah.
you're cooked anyway. But
Yeah.
that's assumed. Ambition is what you need in places like Hollywood and in publishing, et cetera. If you don't have that drive, like I will not give up. If just that you can keep taking a punch in the nose. Now, I have to say, I'm kind of a weakling in that way. I've been because of my great luck that I've had, I don't have a lot of experience of failures and being told no.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would handle it. I don't think
I
I can
know,
handle it.
Greg, you know how you done it is Gary Player, the golfer. The more
Mhm.
you practice, the luckier you get. You keep going. You're like Warhol taught us. Don't worry about what people think of your art. Just keep making it. And
Yes, and you'll find your audience. People. Like I said, when I teach a seminar on how to write a bestseller, I'm going to say,
yeah,
don't write a bestseller. You
yeah,
write what you want, then you figure out how to sell it. So you make sure that your audience finds you. You
yeah,
don't go chasing an audience. Anyone who sits down, and I have a couple writer friends who failed
yeah.
because they went out to
It's
write a
just, yeah,
bestseller. Oh, what's going to sell? What can I get a publisher to buy? Screw the publishers.
yeah,
Screw them all. You do something and you beat the hell out of them. A
yeah,
Penguin, which was the biggest publisher in the world for a while, came to me, wanted me to write a book, but they didn't want me to write the book I wanted to write. So I said,
yeah,
screw it. And I went to a
yeah,
teeny weeny publisher,
yeah.
and I ended up with a monster New York Times bestseller, which then Penguin had to buy at a high price.
Ah,
And so the book that they said couldn't sell and they wouldn't publish it, then they had to buy it.
I got to tell you, this is a really great story because you brought up Liza in the family thing. They asked Nancy Sinatra, when did the mob enter the music business? And she said, honey, we invented the music business. So this is the next question. Is perception reality?
Yeah. Okay. I have to now go back. Do I have to really go back to Descartes and
Well,
this is or Bishop Berkeley,
well,
Barclay,
Lily,
but
go to Lily. Lily Tomlin said reality is just a collective hunch.
yeah. So or go back to Chomsky. I don't know. Is it? How would we know? If we are
Yeah,
are we a dream of a lazy reptile? I don't
yeah,
know. No one's
yeah,
going to tell me, and I will never find out. All I can do is this is my reality.
yeah,
I'm stuck.
yeah.
And I'm stuck in this goddamn rock for a short time, and gravity is holding me here. And is that reality? Well, it's the only reality I got. I don't even know.
Yeah. Well,
Who
tell
knows?
me
I
one.
don't know. I don't know.
Well, tell me one major element of your creativeness, your journalism, activism, all the things you do. One major element that stayed the same, and one major element that's changed in the years you've been doing this.
Well, the thing that stayed the same is what I got from my father in particular, which is concern for the people who are being screwed.
Yeah.
And when I was a investigator, when I was an economist, when I was a writer, even as a poet, filmmaker, it's all about being that voice. That's like the guy put the note in my pocket,
Yeah.
being the voice of those who can't speak for themselves. That's why I try to learn. That's why I work so hard at learning how to speak well, film well, talk well.
Yeah.
And I didn't take any classes for this stuff. So I had to learn that, teach myself, work just
But I
for that
think
one thing so
I
that
think
I
your
can speak
roots
to
in
others.
yeah, your roots in literature helped you. That's like
Mhm.
Faulkner saying sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. You've got true journalism going because you knew the roots of fiction because
Well,
they're
it's
both.
funny. I was interviewed by my own paper, by the Guardian. Say, so what was your biggest influence on your writing? The Seymour Hersh or
Yeah.
Ambrose Bierce or whatever. They mentioned all these journalists. John Pilger, whatever. So who was your major influence in writing? I said my two teachers, Charles Bukowski and Allen Ginsberg.
Oh, that's great.
And I said, they were they were the inspirations for my writing, not these dull journalists that make you
not
go to
I, not I.F. Stone, who said typos are worse than fascism. I.F. Stone. Okay, but now you answered that so well, Greg. You're articulate and concise. I appreciate this. What stayed the same? Now, what's changed in the decades you've been doing this? What's one major thing that's changed?
I don't know. I'm dull in that way. I don't think I've changed a lot. I mean, maybe I guess the only thing that's changed is I've gotten older, and I used to be, and I don't know, this was ambition or drive or having this desire to tell these stories. I mean, I used to work day and night. I can't do that anymore. I
Yeah.
have to have some time. I actually took a weekend with my girlfriend up at, you know, up in Morro Bay. I usually, it's like, uh, and that's,
Well,
so
that's good.
I don't have the same drive or ambition. I still have that need,
Yeah.
not an ambition or a desire. I've had bestsellers, I've had hit movies, I've made money, I've done all this stuff. That was all by accident, the money. But all, I've been lucky.
Yeah.
But I had this endless drive, which I don't have anymore. But what I still have is that need to tell the story of people who can't tell
Yeah.
their own story. That's
Yeah,
just
you have to know how to chill out, because we met at Beyond Baroque, the great poetry center in
Mhm.
Venice, and then we re-met when you were dancing frantically with your girlfriend to the rock and roll on the streets in Venice, where the real shit happens, not in the clubs, on the
Yes.
boardwalk to my favorite.
We were on the beach. There was a band right on the beach, and we were dancing. She's the
Yeah, and we had the best
my
time.
associate producer, and we do work together. Is an amazing dancer. I used to, by the way, among my other jobs, I used to be a ballroom dance instructor, but she
Nice.
dances better than me. But
Yeah.
so yeah, so I do. By the way, even when I was ambitious, I did go. I really was big on dance. I mean, I remember Amy Goodman and I talking, and I was going out dancing that night because she was going to get up for the program. I said, "I'll see you in the morning," but I'm dancing all night, and then I'll catch you on. Well, I'll catch you in the studio tomorrow.
Beautiful.
So I
So
did, I do
yeah,
care about, because I was a jazz drummer by profession for a while,
yeah, yeah.
and so I've done a lot of different things, and so yeah, I would actually, right now in my life, I'd actually like to do more of that.
Well, we had you speak at our Bloomsday event, and you're
Yeah.
welcome to all our events to contribute both political and poetry. But this is Moshe Feldenkrais. He works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Yeah. The lack of training
Yeah,
as a writer and as a television reporter.
yeah,
And it actually turned out to be really positive. I didn't go to journalism school. In fact, actually, I just hired a great guy, Ethan Lieberman, who is a top journalism student, the first journalism student I've ever hired, because I don't like journalism students. They teach you all these horrible habits. You end up writing like some asshole from the New York Times. And so when the Guardian hired me, I wasn't expecting. When the Guardian asked me to join the paper, and I was in New York, they said, get on a first plane to London. They wanted my investigative reporting. And I said, look, I'm going to be honest. I don't know how to write journalism. I took a 2-week writing course. That's, to be a chief writer for the Guardian, and, the top English language newspaper, with not the New York Times, it's the Guardian. And, to just start at the top, I said, I'm going to be honest. I don't know how to do this. They said, don't worry, we'll fix your stuff. And then I started writing in this crazy manner that they'd never seen. And they said, this is amazing. We want this. We'll write the straight stories for you, but we want your kind of crazy, raw, untutored writing.
yeah,
And it was very, very successful. And then when I went to BBC television, I had no experience. I took 2 days of television training with, believe it or not, Fox News. And that was my entire training, 2 days with Fox News. And they put me on, and I didn't start like Fox said, "Oh, are you starting out like local news or weather or something?" I said, "No, I'm in nightly news and world service, international television. I'm an investigative reporter." That's impossible. You don't know how to do this. And so I get on camera and I don't know how to do this. So then my director realized that I didn't know how to do this. So you know what he said? He just said, a great director, Myron Jones, with BBC. He said, because we're going on international television and I got to do like major reports. And he said, "You just do what you want to do and I'll film it." And then
Wow.
what happened
That's a
was
cool director.
people saw that stuff, and the network was saying, "Where did you learn this amazing style?" And I said, 45 minutes ago, I said, I've been doing, I don't know what I'm doing. And the
Yeah.
fact that I didn't have that TV training
Yeah.
as a reporter, that stuff where the guy stands up on the White House lawn, the president's taking off and he's waving from his helicopter. "This is Greg Palast reporting from the White House." I don't know how to do that bullshit crap. All I
Yeah.
do is know how to be this crazy guy that runs around. And it's very similar to me, and that's why I'm often compared to Michael Moore, because it's very much the same thing. We're kind of
Yeah.
amateurs who
Yeah.
just get in front of a camera. The difference is that I'm actually doing it on the nightly news and on, which is a very different. And thank God for that. I had Britain, the BBC and the Guardian, that
Yeah.
they didn't care that I sounded and looked like everyone else. They didn't care.
They
They just
knew
wanted the story.
that director knew how to bring out of you what you didn't know what was in you. That's what Zappa did with all his musicians. Amazing. What's the difference between rights and responsibilities?
Actually, Frank Zappa wanted me to play for one of his bands when I was young. I was
Oh,
15.
how cool is
And
that?
and yeah, but my mother wanted me to be a dentist, so she said, "You can't go out on the road at Zappa."
Well, that's a beautiful thing. I know besides dancing at the boardwalk in Venice, you wanted to play drums with them. But
Yes, I
basically,
did.
Craig, what's the difference between rights and responsibilities?
Whoa. Um, well, you have a I don't know, maybe it's just playing with words too much, but you have a responsibility to protect your rights and others.
Yeah.
And there is a sense, I do often have, I have a real sense of obligation when I'm doing my work. I'm telling someone else's story. If I'm telling a story for the Osage, I just sent a note to Chief Standing Bear, and I said, "I want to make sure that I'm telling the story the way you want it,
Yeah.
because it's your life on the line. It's not it. I don't make films for me. I make films for the people I'm filming. I'm telling their story. Now,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean I necessarily give them the right to change my film, because I have to tell that. But my responsibility is to tell their story. Rights? I don't know. Do I have the right to do anything? I don't know. It's like,
What's the difference between rebellion and revolution?
rebellion is the resistance and climate emergency and all that. Basically, pretend performative action.
Yeah.
Revolution is when you actually change things. So,
Yeah.
for example, Malcolm X was a performer. Martin Luther King was a revolutionary. So,
Really good. Yeah.
so Malcolm X was a rebel,
Yeah.
which is a performative thing.
Yeah.
And Martin Luther King actually got shit done,
Really
and he
good.
focused. Yeah.
Really good. Utah Phillips, great labor folk activist, folk music activist, says anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Well, that's a good question. I actually have a great respect, believe it or not, for rules that make sense. I have a
Yeah.
great respect for tradition. I
Yeah.
have a great respect for those who've gone before and know the rules. Like I talked earlier about Frank and Lois Rosen. Now, they were active union people. They were communists. they were highly disciplined, and they gave me that sense that you have to respect your elders, listen to them, know that other people have gone before you down these paths. You ain't inventing nothing. Okay. You ain't inventing nothing. And you have to have the respect and patience to follow the rules of those who've gone before you and know what they're doing. And maybe they made mistakes, and you're going to pick up the story yourself. But I got to tell you, I mean, working like with the Osage, and I worked, and I don't idealize natives, just so you know. I worked a lot of tribes. I'm not one of these people that say, oh, they're so close to nature or something like that. I mean, they are more than we are, but I don't idealize, but I do learn.
Yeah.
And and I spent, if you watch Killers of the Flower Moon, the guy who plays the spiritual leader of the tribe is the spiritual leader of the tribe today.
Yeah.
Everett Waller. And I learn a lot when he teaches me history. I'm going back to the reservation maybe in a week or two, and I'll be learning from I'll be working with a great spiritual leader of theirs, and who has been very, very helpful, not only making my film, but to me personally, and
Yeah.
I have to have respect for the people who have gone before me and know more than I do.
Yeah, that's like they manage fire. They don't fight fires. But the etymology on the word freedom is exactly matches what Utah Phillips said. Giving oneself one's own laws. So what does freedom mean to you now? And I just want to set it up if these possibly could help you figure out. T.S. Eliot, freedom is only truly freedom when it appears against the background of an artificial limitation, which caused McLuhan to say, how are you to argue with people who insist on sticking their heads in the invisible teeth of technology, calling the whole thing freedom? So, Greg, what does freedom mean to you now?
To be able to complete the work that I want to complete.
Yeah.
And have the ability and outlets and everything else. This gives me to have this playing field. It's like if you were a tennis player without a tennis court and all you could do. I remember as a kid, I used to play a lot, banging tennis balls against the
Me too. Yeah.
against the wall. But that's not freedom yet. That's practice. Freedom is when you're doing when you're actually completing your task. I mean, it was Aristotle who said there is satisfaction in completion. Well, that also frees you. I mean, I don't want to say, I hate to sound like one of these pontifical guys, life is like a pizza or something like that. And I can't always follow the advice I would give someone else. Right now, frankly, I have some personal burdens. And to me, freedom right now would be being able to do my work without worrying about my own goddamn life.
Yeah.
And problems.
Yeah.
And
it's how you integrate the two, in that it flips right into this. There's a line that goes, you create what you resist. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, flipped it into, you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So your thoughts, Greg, on this line, you create what you resist. Not you, Greg, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that line?
Well, we see that in the Mideast. We see it all over the goddamn planet. I don't have any great wisdom on this, but there's no question when you're at war and, I'm thinking my personal life too. When I'm at war with someone or something, it takes me over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bit of a sideways answer. I mean, because I'll take that as a serious question so I don't want to give you some smart ass answer. That's why I said that.
Yeah, no. How do you find peace of mind?
You tell me, please. And
Well,
send
I'll
me,
tell you,
when you find it, you send me an email with instructions. I
talking
do
with you.
not have peace of mind
Well,
at all.
Greg, talking with you is like someone told me two people talking is the revolution. Talking with you on the Venice Boardwalk that one day was so enlightening and so fun at the same time. So I appreciate it. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say
Oh,
to your
wow.
12-year-old self?
Don't worry.
Yeah.
It'll all come out okay.
Yes.
You know, there was a time I remember, well, I don't know if it's all coming out okay now. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you next year and I'll tell you whether it came out all okay. But I remember, well, when I was 12, just so you know, I was a really, really confident, happy. I was an incredibly happy kid despite growing up in this poor shithole barrio.
Yeah.
I was an incredibly happy kid, very, very confident, and things kind of went my way generally.
Yeah.
It was only later in life. I had kind of a midlife crisis in my early 40s, and I didn't become a writer till I was 43. And I at 43, I said, "Oh, my life's all washed up, and I should have been a writer, and I made all these mistakes." I actually had a great life until then. This is the truth. And but I was suddenly feeling like I had the wrong life, and I went through a huge crisis. I mean, it sounds very fancy. I was actually in Hanoi at the time. I didn't sleep for days, feeling I was having dreams. I couldn't sleep, so I was in these waking dreams that I was watching myself at my own funeral being buried. And I wish I could go back to that guy, not a 12-year-old, because a 12-year-old was happy and confident. But I wish I could go to that guy going through the crisis saying, you know what? You're going to get exactly what you want. And it's
Wow.
all coming to you. Just, obviously you have to take some goddamn steps.
Yeah.
I decided I want to be a writer, and so I took a 2-week writing course and then got hired right away by the Guardian. But so that was very quick. Most people don't get, that's when we talk about luck, you just found out.
Yeah, but I think it's back to Gary Player. The more you practice, the luckier you
Yeah,
get.
I know.
But
It's like,
you can explain it that way. But what a couple more and we're out of here, Greg. I appreciate your time.
yeah, no,
What's the
but
cult?
I do have to say that it
Okay,
does remind me of who was it that said, you know, it it took me 30 years to become an overnight success.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
understand.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to put in the work. You have to put in the work.
yeah. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
I'm horrified by the current world. And maybe it's the only consolation of my 73 years that I won't be here to see it all go to fucking hell.
Yeah,
I don't like the world right now. And I think that with AI, that evil now has a new toy. And remember, the internet was going to save us,
yeah,
and cars are going to save us, and airplanes are going to save us, and everything is going to save us. But I
yeah.
actually don't have much hope. I look
I,
at, and there's, I hired this 22-year-old. He kind of gives me hope that not everyone is a complete corroded piece of garbage, selfish, stupid,
I think.
mindless, vindictive. I mean, you know, and that's true on every side.
Yeah,
I think it was, we had No King's Day, the biggest demonstration in American history. I think it was a celebration of hatred,
yeah.
of
You know,
anger and hatred.
you
Sorry.
know. Both Paul Krasner and Orson Bean were great Venetians, and that I think they both checked out. They were like, "You're gonna have fucking COVID and Trump. We're out of here." But a couple more. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good that I never had, but I never wanted.
Yes.
Well, I I want everything. I mean, Buddha would be horrified. I mean, I wanted to be a ballet dancer. I wanted to be
Wow.
a conceptual artist. I certainly
Oh, I
wanted to
like.
be a poet, and I still waiting to. My publisher's still waiting for me to show up with my the great Matt Cedillo to show up with a book of with my draft for my book of poetry to publish.
Dude, I think
But
you are a
I'm a
ballet. I think you are a ballet conceptual artist doing this stuff. But you know the answers I get the most, Greg? Tell me something good you never had and you never want. Fame, money, and heroin. That's what I get the most. Now, if you
I'll
were in
take
a
all three,
yeah,
but they're not. I have to tell you, none of those are important to me.
yeah,
But that's probably easy for me to say because I have a modicum of money and fame, and I can get heroin anytime I want. Um, and there's all kinds of heroin, so to speak. There's all kinds of
there's all
things to
kinds
distract us. But
metaphorical.
yeah, so it's easy for me to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't care about those things.
If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Well, if it floats, I'll take it. It's like, get me out of here. It's like, and by the way, just to let you know, right at this moment, I'm emotionally kind of in a vat of vomit. So,
Yeah. But
so I know, people look at me and say, we all have that wonderful Schadenfreude of, what we love to see, the successful, the famous, and the rich fall and fail
yeah,
and find out that they have all these dark things. And Robin Williams kills himself and go, if I were Robin Williams, I wouldn't kill myself. I got my own jet, my own TV show,
yeah.
But I know a lot of people have looked at my site. So, man, you've got the perfect life. I said, okay, you can borrow it because I don't need it right now.
Yeah, Greg, you'll love this. I asked this question for years, and a woman on the boardwalk said, I would take the bag of shit coming at my face and use it to swoop my way out of the vat of vomit. I said, dude, that is The Descent into the Maelstrom by Edgar Allan Poe, which McLuhan starts his first book about. We're swimming and swirling in information overload, and we can use that to get ourselves out of it. How do you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough? So, Greg, how has being an investigative journalist shaped your behavior?
Well, it's hard to say because I've always been an investigator my whole life. I
Yeah,
mean, as far, going back, I actually started doing investigations. If you read my book, Vulture's Picnic, while I was still at the university, I was an
yeah,
investigator. And so it's been my whole life is a matter of digging into things and finding out what's behind the curtain, what's under the rock,
yeah,
what's hidden in that book there, what's the secret, what's the darkness. So you do. So yeah, so that's just always, so I can't say it's affected me except to say that it's my life,
yeah.
everything I do.
What's a question that remains unresolved for you?
Now you've stumped me. I guess what it is that I don't know what'll happen to me next.
Yeah, what's
I
next?
mean, I have a lot of opportunities that other people don't have. I do
Yeah,
movies. I can put out my book of poetry. I can do a lot of stuff, that stuff. But then my personal life and what happens as I get older and face the final curtain, it's what's going to happen to me in these last hours?
yeah,
I just don't know. And some of it, if I had a better personality, I'd look forward because I always do have these wonderful things that I do that I'm allowed to do that other people would love to
yeah.
do. But I just don't know what's next. And I'm just, When people say, "How you doing?" I said, and I'll say, "Just trying to get through this veil of tears." I say it kind of jokingly, but I kind of mean it. And then there was this woman at a liquor store, by the way, a comely young woman who said, "What do you mean by that?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. But
what's
Greg,
wrong?"
what you're doing is you don't beat yourself up, dude. You've done such important work, and it's going to live on. And you can keep beating yourself up, but you're just going to do what we're all said. Just keep doing it. Just keep, like Frank Zappa said, don't stop and keep going. And I don't think you're going to stop. Okay, two more, and we're out of here, Greg. I really appreciate it. This is Thornton Wilder in 1928. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
That's a tough one. In fact, one of the reasons I wrote that book that I keep mentioning, Vulture's Picnic, is that unlike my other books, which are, investigations and it's the investigative reporting, and my films are investigative reporting, Vulture's Picnic, I wanted to tell you the life of an investigator, not just the investigation.
Yeah.
So that you know that I'm a guy with a busted old yellow Pontiac. I have to go get a colonoscopy. My daughter won't talk to me, all those things. And then I have my personal joys, and
yeah, there you go. See, you do, Greg. You do have personal joys.
But it is confessional. So I wanted to confess, but I realized when I read the book that I'm trying to tell people, like, most of my life is kind of what other people consider dull. I go through tons of account books. I spend a lot of time having to set up film and raise money and things like, so most of my life is not, especially if you're a writer, women who want to be with me think it's going to be exciting. I said, what's so exciting about watching someone at a typewriter? It's like, you think I'm this, you see me in film and I'm this swashbuckling guy chasing the bad guys down the street and doing stakeouts. And I said, it's all this compressed, cool shit.
Yeah.
But that's not my day to day. I have to go to the goddamn dentist. And I've got troubles you can't. And so when I realized that in this book where I was trying to be confessional about what my life really is, and the dark, the bad, the good, the ugly, even saying terrible things about myself. In fact, one guy who worked with me, a good guy, he quit because he said, you put out this book and everyone will hate you because you're confessing all your dark side. But then when you read it, most people said, oh, that's amazing. I want to, Hollywood wants to make a film out of this. They want to, actually have De Niro play me, but it's like,
Greg, it's 50 years for Sunset Boulevard. You're not going to be the guy floating in the swimming pool at the end of Billy Wilder, but it is this amazing, you captured what's so romantic for the human, for the baby boomer, is the Bogarty kind of investigate. It's film noir. It's like it's so good, but you made it easier for us to digest. It's not like
it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I didn't think, like, I'm always, and I have to, BBC requires me to wear a hat anytime I'm on camera because I'm the man in the hat. So it's a branding thing. But when I started out, I was an investigator. There's a reason why investigators wear hats and coats. And just so you know, there's a reason why we wear fedoras and coats. It's a multi. You can be outside, you can be inside. It's all kinds of stuff. But so I didn't think about it. And then I was on camera the first time BBC's investigator. I didn't take off my hat, and Tony Blair, the Prime Minister, attacked me, saying, "Don't believe a man in a hat." So I had to wear this hat. But I realized then people started saying, "Oh, Sam Spade," it's like, I didn't even think about it. And then when I wrote Vulture's Picnic, people were saying, reading the drafts, "Oh, this is Raymond Chandler." And I'd never read Raymond Chandler. So I finally read Raymond Chandler, and I realized, yes, my writing and style and all that, the positive stuff. But I said, Raymond Chandler has perfect detectives. And the end of the book, they always find the bad guy. They always come to a conclusion. I said, I wish life worked like that. That's not what happens.
You're more like Chandler meets Bukowski. You'll love this Bukowski story. This one. I told you, my friend's working at the Santa Monica Library. He's in charge of calling the cops when a wino passes out in the bathroom. He calls the cops and they're pulling out the guy, and it's Charles Bukowski. And he's like, I called the cops on my hero. No.
Well, having known him, there's a couple times when I would have called the cops on him too. But he was a great teacher.
Yeah.
Now, Allen Ginsberg was my formal poet. You know, I actually went to his, he invited me to his graduate seminar.
Yeah.
And so I, formally trained.
In Colorado?
Hung around.
You mean in Colorado? You studied
in New York? I didn't.
Oh,
I wouldn't go to Naropa with the poetry wars.
Greg, you're an alchemist. You take two known things, Bukowski and Allen, investigative journalism. You put them together and you create a third unknown thing.
Well, that's what I was trying to do. In fact, I actually, in Vulture's Picnic, I literally went out to create a new genre. And
yeah.
Jack Blood was one of the first people to figure that out. And unfortunately, one other person figured me out, which was Bobby Kennedy before the worm got him. You know, he and I were co-authors at Rolling Stone.
What was what was the label for the new genre? Was there a wording?
Yeah, a pulp nonfiction.
Oh, pulp nonfiction. That is good.
Yeah. So I tried.
Who invented that? Who invented?
I came up with I started doing the writing, and then as people kept talking to me, it's like pulp fiction, but it's nonfiction. So I said, yeah, so it's pulp nonfiction.
You invented. That's good. Yeah, I like that.
And he said, I hope you and other people pick up this style, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. Okay, Greg, this is the last question. I hope this can become a 10-part Netflix series because it's really been a delight.
Yes, I would love this. I'm going to get yelled at now by my associate producer for cutting out for an hour and a half.
Give him my email and I'll
invite her. She loves you. So there.
I'll invite her. Oh, she already refused to be on my podcast. Okay, so here's the last question. What gives you the most optimism?
Holy Christ. You do.
Oh,
and I'm not being. And what I mean by that is, for me personally, as I said, to have that outlet, I can't keep banging tennis balls against the wall. I have to be on the court, and you're letting me on this court.
Yeah.
The second thing is that I have to be grateful that for everything else that's happening, and at my age, I am still able to do this work and get and express myself. So I'm grateful that I can still express myself as a writer, filmmaker, poet, dancer, whatever. Maybe I'll get back to the drums. But the other thing is, and then I'm grateful that I have this platform so it doesn't get bottled up inside and eat me alive.
Yeah. Greg, thank you so much, because the first question I ask is, what's the best thing for a human being? And Wilhelm Reich said, the best thing for a human being is another human being. The last question is, what gives you the most optimism? That's what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it was you, Greg. Thank you so much.
Okay. Send me a link.
I will send you the link, Greg.
And even I'll study it and learn something myself.
Even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button now, I hope this never ends and we keep talking forever and ever. Thank you so much, Greg.
Let's do that. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Bye.